Notes on New Criticism. New Criticism was a formalist movement in literary theory that dominated American literary criticism in the middle decades of the 20th century. It emphasized close reading, particularly of poetry, to discover how a work of literature functioned as a self-contained, self-referential aesthetic object. Like formalist critics, new critics focused their attention on the variety and degree of certain literary devices, specifically metaphor, irony, tension, and paradox. The new critics emphasized close reading as a way to engage with a text, and paid close attention to the interactions between form and meaning. Richards talks about four aspects of meaning: sense, what the speaker points to, what he refers to; feeling, the feeling that is conveyed through language; tone indicates the attitude of the speaker to the listener; intention, what the speaker wants to convey to the listener. Statements and pseudo-statements. Statements are considered true if they correspond with the external reality they represent. Pseudo-statements are found in poetry and literature, and they are justified if they produce the intended emotion or help in organizing the impulses and attitudes of the readers. Richards says that poetry has nothing to do with external ideologies and is shaped only by the experiences of the poet. The reader and the critic should not seek the aid of anything outside themselves to analyze the poem that they have with them. The poet's success lies in transferring his experience to the reader. For Richards, good poetry is poetry that helps a person to organize his impulses and attitudes. Later, critics have discarded psychological theories about poetry. But the fact that he gave more importance to the text rather than the external details makes him valuable to the world of literary criticism. His major works are Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism. Poetry has value if it is able to organize impulses and attitudes in human beings. But the idea of communication is also very important in criticism. The author does not have the intention of communicating with the audience. If he is conscious of this end of poetry, then he is an inferior writer. The experiences of the poet, when they are given a proper form, will naturally give the reader the same experience. In order to give form to his experience, the poet should be familiar with the symbols that were used in the past. They should spontaneously come to his aid when he gives expression to his experience. If the reader has to understand the experiences that a poet talks about, the impulses that the poet had should be similar to that of the reader. Richards' idea of value of literary aesthetic work. Richards says that human beings repress 9 out of 10 impulses that they experience. This repression does not help in stabilizing, systematizing the impulses. They remain impulses. Richard says that the impulses and stimuli that occur in a particular group of people are similar. New criticism. New critics emphasized that the text and the text alone was sufficient. New critics believed that their version of criticism was intrinsic whereas others were extrinsic, focusing on unnecessary external details. New critics also oppose relativism, the claim that everything is relative and no truth is possible, and impressionism, giving importance to the effect of the work on the critic. New critics believed that all works produced a definite and final reading or close reading. They search for textual elements like image, symbol, metaphor, plot, character, rhyme and meter. These elements create an organic whole that is the poem and therefore they constitute the poem. If something is taken away, the poem is lost. That is why new critics opposed paraphrasing. New critics were united only by what they opposed. In actual practice, each critic focused on their favorite linguistic aspect. René Wellick's criticism of the new criticism. They focused only on aesthetic experience and did not discuss the social function of literature, art for life's sake. Does not give enough importance to historical content, which is essential for understanding certain texts. Scientific methods used by new critics are not suited for literature which is irrational and subjective. New criticism is an academic discipline and does not attract common readers to literature.